You're now tuned in to the hottest podcast in the world, the Stay Woke Podcast, right here on TheSonicBreakdown.com.
Man, it's time to wake up. Get this cake up. Only thing I care about is switching.
Welcome back to another Stay Woke Podcast. This is D-Ray Brinton, and you know the Stay Woke Podcast is presented by TheSonicBreakdown.com. So today's going to be a very special end-of-the-year episode, which means we're doing the Sonic Breakdown Top 10 Hip-Hop List of 2017. And just so you know what the criteria was or how we came up with this list, it was all hip-hop or rap albums that was released in the 2017 calendar year. So there's some albums that were released late in December of last year that won't be making this list, unfortunately. But hey, that's just the way it goes. But we have a special guest, fam of the podcast, Jason Terrell, who already released his top 10 list that's on the SonicBreakdown.com right now. So thank you for joining this podcast with me again.
Appreciate it again, man. I'm glad to share everything.
Like I said, if you haven't checked out his article on TheSonicBreakdown.com, go check that out now. Before we even get into our top 10 list, let's give the listeners a quick breakdown of our honorable mentions.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. I'll go first, and I guess I'll put number 15 on the list is Sahai the Prince with No Dope on Sunday. As I stated on the podcast that we did together, the reason why for me that is not in the top 10 list, which originally at that time I thought it might be, is it just didn't quite stick long enough. And there are certain tracks that, you know, were kind of misses to me, as well as my expectations of it was that it was going to be themed around the New Africa, which was a single, and that kind of threw me off. So that's why it quite didn't make the top 10 list. What about you for your first honorable mention?
All right, so the first one was the Joey Badass All-American Badass Project. Good album, good concept. For me, I think he was trying to reach for a new sound, so to speak, like a lot of radio play records. I always liked Joey from when he kind of started, but didn't necessarily feel this one the most. And I ended up buying the album and everything, but it just didn't make the top 10.
I got you. My next one was Collaborate, and the album that he released this year was Real Person. For me, just to give a little background on my history with Collaborate, is I first found out about him this year as well, but it was his album that he released last year called 1993. And when I heard the track called August 28th, I was basically instantly hooked, and I started going back to his discography. And then this album, Real Person, came out this year, and I think it's a really well done project. It wasn't a disappointment. The thing that kept it from getting in that top 10, it was a little too short for me. All of my standout tracks are the first 3 to 4 songs, which was Caught Up, Soul, and Bank Robber. But we are also working on an interview with him in 2018. So everybody out there, put that good word in for your boy.
That's good stuff. Yeah, so the next honorable mention is the Underachievers Renaissance. I'm kind of a big UA fan. Have gone to like a lot of their concerts and really was like excited and anticipating this album, but for some reason it didn't stick for me. I've heard it. Haven't heard them actually tour this one, but I've heard him to his past project, and you know, I support him. I rock with him. I got some of the paraphernalia, some shirts, but you know, so I'm gonna put them on the list because I enjoyed them and what they do, but for some reason this album just didn't hit it for me.
Okay. I remember us talking about it. At the time, I thought it was a good album, but similar to you, it just didn't stick. Which is similar to my number 13 on this list, which is Raekwon the Wild. And I know Wu-Tang fans out there are gonna kill me, but I'm a Wu-Tang fan, always have been, always will be. And to me, Raekwon, this album is very reminiscent of the Purple album, as I said in the podcast that we did. But again, I just don't go back to it often enough. And again, that tells me something. If I don't go back to it often enough, there's something about it that's not making me want to go back to it. But what I will say is that Marvin is one of my tracks of our songs of the year on that list of songs of the year. I think it was just that well done. I really, really enjoyed that album, or that song in particular.
It's just, actually didn't have this on my honorable mentions or my top 10, but I liked the project, and Marvin was one of my favorite songs. It's one of those things where I listened to it once, just hadn't listened to it since the first time I listened to it, so, but I love Marvin, love that song. The next honorable mention, rather, is the David Banner, the God Box. David Banner had a lot of, he was touring about this particular album, just, garnering a lot of hype. He partnered with, Umar Johnson and he partnered with Big, Killer Mike, and was doing like tours all over the country, just talking about Black consciousness and buying black, and he got a new haircut and everything. Like he was on it. I thought I was hoping that the album was gonna come hitting, just because there was a lot of just noise around it, and for the most part, it was alright. It was, it wasn't like it was 10 tracks or tracks. Every single track wasn't necessarily a banger. Some tracks seemed like it was actually forced. It wasn't really cohesive. One or two songs was on there that was like I really, really enjoyed, but for the most part, the other ones are forgettable, to say the least. So for as much noise that he had around the album, I was hoping that it would be a better project. Just wasn't it for me, but it was good. It was dope. I appreciated the themes. That's going to be my honorable mention.
Yeah, it was close to making my honorable mention, but quite not close enough. Again, I went to it like I'll say 2 or 3 times when it first came out, just to really trying to, get a feel of it. I never went back to it since that point. What I'll say is for my next honorable mention, which is number 12, is Rick Ross, Rather You Than Me. And early in the year, I thought this would be definitely in the top 10, just because of Rick Ross's consistency and the sophistication and elegance that he has in his production, where it makes you feel like you're listening to something expensive with every album. Due to some of the songs that just quite didn't hit with me, they were a little bit too trappy. I made them, it just didn't quite get there for me. So that's why it's my honorable mention.
One more. I got one more honorable mention. I think my last honorable mention, and I actually didn't have this on the article that I wrote, but something I thought of kind of from our previous conversation was actually Tyler's album. So I completely forgot about Tyler's album. I enjoyed it. It was a good sound, good listen. And, it was different from his other projects. This was a lot more melodic, a lot smoother, a lot more melody to it. But it didn't stick for necessarily a top 10, but definitely a good project. I recently heard it on I think it was like the NPR Tiny Concert series thing, but
Tiny
live,
Desk.
and it was
Tiny Desk concert.
Yeah, and it was dope. Yeah, it was dope. I mean, I love the instrumentation. I love what he has like live music. Anytime you have rapping over live music, I'm a fan. Even in Tyler's style, so to speak. So I enjoyed it. My
number 11, which kind of was a surprise or a shock to me when I was making the list, is that Logic he didn't make the top 10. And that's the album that I'm referring to is Everybody. I still think this is a very good project. I go to it often. I listen to it from beginning to end. The thing that kept it from getting into the top 10 is, as I stated on the podcast that we did about it, or the episode that we did about it, was that there were certain tracks where it just felt like he was talking too much for me. I wanted him. It's not the fact that I had a problem with the content that he was talking about. It just what drew me from the music. I'd rather him rap, sing it, find some way to present it that wasn't in talking. Because it felt like it pulled me out of the album, where I wanted to be in the album. I wanted to stay in the album, stay in that place, stay in that area. But I think the theme was very well done. It was consistent. To me, Logic is lyrically skilled, so that's not in question. And I like his creative approach to that particular album. But again, that's what really pulled it away from me. And I remember you saying that at the time when we did that podcast as well, is that the content was kind of what held you back away from that album, correct? I didn't really connect with the Logic album. Maybe it's like the space theme, and I like Another Grad Tyson was on it, was cool. It was too much for me. It was too much for me. I didn't connect with it on a thematic level. I get it. I get it, but it's just not for me. I couldn't connect with all the space, analogies and Star Trek kind of stuff. This just wasn't my thing. But hey, I think he's a dope rapper. I don't take nothing away from him. So he probably would be my top 20 of the year, top 15, top 20 of the year rather. But this didn't make my honorable mention. Now that we've gone through that, let's go into the top 10. Everybody's been waiting for it. They want to know what's our top 10. Let's start with number 10. And I guess I'll kick it off. My number 10 was Static Selecta, number 8. This was a surprise as well, is the fact that it was a late release. So it was late to the party, but it was well worth being at the party. I really enjoyed the production. It has that golden era of New York hip hop, with that jazz influence throughout it. The features to me were well done. They fit, even though there was a lot of features, but that's what you would expect when you get an album that's made by a producer who's not a rapper. So, but it didn't feel, none of them felt forced or that they were trying to make the people combine. They just worked together well. One of my standout songs for this album was Put Jewels On. And the reason why I really enjoyed it is because when you listen to the production, it has a James Bond feel to me. Like I can see it in a James Bond movie. Actually, they should use it in the next James Bond, and they should have Idris Elba as James Bond. But side note, besides the production on that particular track, Killer Mike and LP kill it. They both flow over it perfectly, making it my favorite song of the album. But again, there's a lot of standout tracks on that album. So that's why I made the top 10.
Okay, that's a bit. I haven't heard this album, but definitely want to give it a listen to. My favorite, at least the top 10 rather. My number 10 was Gucci Mane's Mr. Davis. So I had to put like a trap album on there. I listened to a couple of trap albums throughout the year, but this one made the top 10. One just because of the replayability. Every track was kind of a banger. I was able to listen to it from start to finish in the gym while I'm driving. He just came back from a long jail or prison sentence, so trying to change up his image, even change up his flow was a lot clearer than before. Before Gucci was like the original mumbler, but as you can hear what he said, very introspective on this one. So I appreciated it for what it's worth. It wasn't necessarily lyrical, but it was just good sounding music. I just appreciate it for the music. So that's my number 10.
Okay. I to be honest with you, I listened to that Gucci Mane album once and that was it. But and I try to go into it with the open mind but that's just not in my wheelhouse of sounds that I tend to like. I'm not a trap guy, but I would say this.
Yeah.
What I will say is, and this is going to be a quick side note, is that out of the trap albums of this year, I would put that number 2 for me. Number 1 would be 2 Chainz, Pretty Girls Like Trap Music.
Okay. What you think of Issa? Did you put that? Is that not on there?
Oh no. No. 21 ain't making it.
Gucci and Issa. Yeah. 21 was he was almost there, but maybe another time.
Yeah, 21. He ain't make it for me, but he's not even in my top 20. So, let me. I'll go to my number 9, and my number 9 is Odyssey. Odyssey is a artist that I found out about November, about this time last year, with The Good Fight. And then I started going into discography, and then he released The Iceberg this year, which I thought was really well done on the concept of, that iceberg theory of breaking down things to the deeper, getting past that surface level type of things, and breaking things down, deeper. And that was one of the tracks that I liked the most, was the title track, or not the title track, but the intro track, Digging Deep, just because he kind of breaks down that theme for those that might not understand that concept and presents it and sets the tone for the album in a very well done way. The other aspect about this album that I really enjoyed was the fact of the jazz sounds, the real instrumentation as well. And then when I heard the live version of it, I grew to love the album even more. So I definitely people should check out the live version of this album as well. But the things that really stuck out about this album was how smart and intricate analysis of the tougher issues of police brutality, gender equality, and race relations that he dives into throughout this album. He makes it personal, but he also makes it societal and cultural. So it just felt like a nice balance between those two worlds. Digging Deep, Built by Pictures, and Like Really are my favorite tracks of this album.
Okay, I haven't checked that out Odyssey before. I hear a lot of people talk about these on hip hop reviews online. Haven't checked this music out, but I definitely will.
Yeah, he's dope, man. I tell everybody they should check him out.
Number 9 was Taha. I know you mentioned that your honorables. I'm put it as my number 9 just because of the theme. So the theme of the music was really rooted in religion, really rooted in the Southern culture at least, kind of protecting the Sabbath and keep it holy, kind of that mindset. So because of that, I rock with it. Taha is a dope lyricist in and of itself. So on a lyrical level, every track hit. The thing that the reason why it wasn't higher for me was because of the features. Didn't like a lot of the features, and the flow was a little off. Some of the tracks I didn't think fit. But for the most part, it was a dope project. So yes, I liked it. It was good for me.
Yeah, it just wasn't good enough for me for this one. Again, I think Sahai is still a dope artist, and I'm still looking forward to his next project. Number 8, I have Tyler, the Creator with Flower Boy. And this really was a surprise to me. If you would have asked me throughout the year, do I think that it would have made my top 10? I would have probably said no. But when I started to break down and make this list, and I was going through all the albums released, I really, really enjoyed the production on this album. And when you say stuff like that, I don't want people to take away and think that his lyrics aren't good enough, or that it's sliding his lyrics. It's just that the production was that well done. And the fact that he did it, I just felt the arrangements were so beautiful. The dynamics in individual songs was just, it just took you places without even words. I just thought that was, to me, it was just really a beautiful arrangement and production. And something that I did not expect from Tyler. So I think that might have also added to why it made it so high on this list.
That's bad. So my next one was Smino. My number 8 was Smino, Black Swan. So Smino is a brand new artist. This is my first time ever hearing him, and I don't really know how I even found out about it. I forget how, but this was like the first project that I've heard from him, and automatically off like track 1, and I was just addicted to his flow, his cadence is very unique. He's almost like I kind of describe Anderson .Paak-ish, but have a rap vibe to him, but definitely has like a flow, a cadence that's really unique. It was kind of low on the list, and then number 8, but very short. Every song was about 2 minutes a piece. So I wish it was a little longer. The album was very short too, so very short, concise. But it was really no room for error, and he didn't really give me any errors either. So because of that, that's why he's number 8.
Okay, I feel that. I did listen to that album. I did enjoy it, but that's what kind of took it away from me, is the fact of how short it was. One of the things, like I've said before, is that the shortness or how short it was made me think, is it because you didn't have enough content to fill in the space, or artistic quality to fill it in? I don't know, because again, this is the first project I've heard from him, so I have nothing to base it on or to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I will say this: I am interested to see what his next project is like and what it sounds like. I definitely will check it out.
So yeah.
Number 7 would be GQ with East 14th. GQ, for those that out there that might not know him, he's an Oakland rapper. He's from Oakland, and I first heard about him listening to Rhapsody's album. And if anybody's listened to this podcast the last 2 years, Rhapsody has been on that list 2 years in a row. We'll see if she makes it 3 years in a row, But she definitely has been on there twice. And then I heard him on that album, and that made me want to hear more from him. So I checked out his album, which was released I think a week after hers was released. And I was not disappointed for this debut album. Ninth Wonder and his crew did most of the production, which means it had heat on it, because Ninth Wonder is a beast. And then when you match that with his lyrics, he just flows so effortlessly, and it's approachable. And he also has a melodic tone that makes it really easy to listen to, and it gives it a high replayability for me. So even if you're not really paying attention to the lyrics, you still feel a connection to his words adding to the production. But then when you take into account what he's actually saying, it just it resonates with me, especially some of the things that he talks about is specific to Oakland, but I feel like anybody in my age range or younger can still relate to it, just the way that it's presented and the topics that he chooses to talk about. I'm very excited and interested to see his growth and to see what this next album sounds like. Because to be honest, I've had this album on repeat since its release. Some of the standout tracks is, I think it's track number 2, Everything's the Same, and Can't Run. That's really what set the bar for me for this album. Can't Run was the song that I just instantly gravitated to, and it highlights his wordplay to me. When I was first listening to it, I instantly tweeted. It was like, okay. When I heard Can't Run, I was like, okay. I have to finish this album out now. And again, I wasn't disappointed. So I definitely say people should check that album out and give Oakland some love.
So it's that Oakland stuff, man. I haven't heard of them. But I definitely get with you to check that out. So my number 7 was Meek Mill's Wins and Losses. So I've
Free
mentioned
Meek
it before,
Mills.
but I haven't been a big Meek big Meek fan just because I've always, these are the tracks that I've heard was like, he's just yelling. And so I couldn't really get with it. So this is actually the first time I just sat down and listened to the full project. Maybe it's kind of like you and Tyler, but this is the first time I heard actually melodies flow. The songs were different. It was still very kind of aggressive. I consider this like my motivation music for 2017, but I could listen to it start to finish. The song on there that really like stuck out to me was 1942 Flows.
Yeah.
Just because he spit. He went crazy. So I'm actually looking forward to his next project when he gets out. So I'm looking forward to the next thing that he does. But this surprised me. So maybe just because I'm new to him, but I enjoyed it.
I definitely have to agree with you about 1942 Flow. I think definitely that's the standout track of that album. That album would make my probably top 20. I'd say top 25. But that 1942 Flow, yeah, that's definitely up there in songs of the year. To be honest, actually, I forgot about that song until you brought it up. And yeah, it's definitely song of the year worthy. My number 6 album is Rhapsody. So she did make it 3 years in a row. 3 albums in a row. She's a beast. To be honest, there's really not much more I can say about Rhapsody that I haven't said on previous podcasts. I talked about her on Female MCs. I've talked about her on when we did the Nicki versus Remy beef. I talked about her, like I said, the last 2 years on the top 10 list. If you don't know she's a beast by now, there's nothing else I can tell you to make you get that. She is a beast. Lyrically, again, Ninth Wonder did the production on this. When I was looking at this list again, reflecting on this list, I was kind of shocked that she was so low, but the fact that she's number 6 just indicates at how great of a year in hip hop this was. A lot of really, really good projects were released this year, and this was one of them. So I just say definitely check out this album, and without this album, I wouldn't have found GQ, which was number 7, as well as, it's a crazy kind of, Kendrick put me on Rhapsody put me on GQ. Like, it's just crazy how that goes.
Yeah.
But what I will say is definitely going to be one of the, I say probably in my top 10 songs of the year is Jesus Coming. That's definitely my favorite song on this album. And the reason why is I'm big on storytelling. I'm really big on storytelling. And she comes through with this one. Just the storytelling ability, and it showcases that as well as it's matched with the soulfulness and level of reflection that the entire track evokes. Rhapsody, you did it again?
And it's actually the same. That's actually my number 6 as well. So I see the movie Interstate. Rhapsody was dope, man. And I listened to a little bit of her music before because I love Ninth Wonder. So I've heard some of his production before, and I heard her spit over like featured tracks. So this is my first time actually listening to a full length album by Rhapsody, and I love it. I mean, she can flow, she can spit, and for the most part, from start to finish, like every song, I couldn't necessarily relate to every single song, but every song I played it straight through. My favorite song on there was Pay Up, just because I like how it was, it was catchy. I like the beat was kind of funky, but again, she just spit it, she just killed it. Yeah. But I'm really looking forward to hearing a lot more from her. I also like the song with her and Kendrick. Going back and forth, that was one of my favorites too.
Power.
Power. Oh man, that was crazy. I couldn't put on, if I had to choose one, so. But Power, that hooked me too. That was like one of the first, maybe 1 or 2 tracks that got me. But yeah, definitely want to look out. I'm looking for more from her.
Number 5. We're halfway through the list, and we get into Joey Badass, All American Badass. He made my number 5.
Oh man.
And the reason why I made my number 5 is because this album came out very early in the beginning of the year, I believe around January. And I still feel the same way that I did when I first listened to it that I do now. Like, I enjoy it the same level, and I've listened to it often. It's high on replayability for me, and not only is it that I really enjoy it, like the emotional connection that I felt with for my people, like even now, like I said, that came out in January, and even now when I hear For My People, like I still feel that emotional connection. Like it still like incites me wanting to do more for my people. Like, and I believe that was the purpose of that song. Like I still feel that, and it like really resonates and gets deep into my bones when like of wanting to do more than what I am. You know what I mean? So I just really enjoy that aspect of it, and I think it's hard to make that emotional connection and he did it. So I really did think he did a great job. So again, my two favorite tracks is For My People and American Idol.
You know, again, I love Joy. He made my audible mentions, but I'm surprised he shut up so high for you. Yeah, I'm surprised. But it was good. I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
My number 5 was JID, The Never Story. Again, this is very similar to Smino. This is my first time ever hearing him. Didn't really know. When I heard him, I was kind of like, what is this? Like, trying to figure out where he's from and what's his deal. I know he was signed to Dreamville, so I thought he had some type of like maybe New York influence or from New York, but from Atlanta. I mean, he's just spits. Again, very unique flow. Never heard anything like him before. Almost like a high cadence, a high pitched tone.
Yep.
Reminds me a lot of, I'm not going to say it reminds me, but I put him in the category of Vince Staples. And that's another one that I probably is in my top 20, but.
Yeah. Big Fish Theory. Yeah.
But, you know, very kind of high flow, high cadence. He spits. So the song that I like was Hereditary. I mean, shoot, just from start to finish, he just spits on the album. So JID, I'm looking forward to everything else that he does moving forward. I'm glad that J. Cole scooped him up early. I'm gonna put him on. I'm looking forward to it. That
leads me right into my number 4, JID, The Never Story. Just basically, you took the words out of my mouth. Is that cadence is so unique. His cadence and his flow and the sound of it is so unique. And when I first heard it, I'm gonna be honest. When I first heard it, it was so jarring. I was like, I don't know. And now that I've listened to it more, of course I like it because it's in the top 4. But it reminded me of how I initially felt about Magoo or Q-Tip, because their voices are so different and so unique that, and I would say non-traditional in what you would think of hip hop. That it threw me off, but I enjoy it so much. The melodic approach that he uses is very appealing to the ear, and usually you don't get that as a rookie. You know what I'm saying? Usually that takes time to develop. And you get that from vets like Q-Tip. You usually don't get that on a debut album, which made it stand out even more to me. His wordplay, his lyricism is at an all-time high. Your Heredity is great. And then the album doesn't have one tone, but it still fits together. It doesn't feel like, like it was just a compilation of things put together that sounded good. It felt consistent, but had many different tones. Because if you think about like Heredity, then you got Ed, and Eddie, 8710, and Somebody. Yeah. All of those tracks sound very, very different than each other, but the album feels right together. But I'll say my favorite track is Louder.
Okay.
To me, that boy goes in on that track. Like,
yeah.
And then I believe J. Cole did the production on that. I just felt like it matched perfectly together, and especially close out the album just right.
You know, it's actually funny. So when I first heard it, I was kind of the same. I was kind of taken aback, just in shock. Like, what am I listening to? It took me maybe to like my 5th or 6th list. I kept giving it a try. I would come back to it a couple of days later, and it just hit me. I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." And I'm looking forward to whatever he does next. Number 4 is Jay-Z 444. Man, this is, I love this album. I love this album for high replayability. It's just smooth. It's something I can just sit back and just think and reflect on. A lot of that was because Jay-Z did a great job of being introspective and kind of talking about his life experiences. But I mean, for the most part, it was just beautiful. Like the song 444, I love like the instrumentation. Beyonce's voice on it was crazy. I just loved it. So as far as like albums for the culture, like after the Jay-Z, if he retires and this is like the last project we're left with, I'm perfectly satisfied with it. This is one of my favorite albums, and will probably be on something I'm probably play for the next 10, 15 years, so I enjoy it. And
that takes me to my number 3, Jay-Z 444. Basically, it's all the things that you just mentioned. I just felt like the perspective that Ho presented isn't new from Jay-Z, but the thing that was new was the level of openness that he presented. Because he always gives you facts, not facts, but he always drops knowledge on you about how to improve your situations. And it ties it back to his life, but it's usually as I think I said on the Jay-Z 444 podcast that we did, that he usually keeps you at arm's length. I feel like he didn't keep us at arm's length. He let us in. Like, we're all, we part of the family now. Like, Blue's my niece now. You know what I'm saying? That's how like we all part of the family, and he let us into his world in a different level than we did. Like you have a smile with where he talks about his mother Gloria being lesbian. We would never have got that before. So I just like that level of openness that he put here. But basically, like you said, I can't really add much more to that. 444 was one of my favorite tracks, and then Kill Jay-Z, just because of the idea of killing your ego. I just thought was really, really interesting, and this album sparked a whole series of Jay-Z footnotes that we did for the podcast. So definitely go check that out. So it was that deep that it inspired a whole series for our podcast. So
it's crazy because as he gets, this is what I want to hear from an older artist. Like he's like 40, pushing 50, close by. So this is exactly what I want to hear from an old artist, just games. I mean, like killing your ego. Those are things that I'm sure a 20-year-old really, they're just trying to figure out themselves so they can really kill them. Hopefully, so you can kind of have an ego death. So I really appreciated that, like you mentioned. Number 3 is Crit. It's a big Crit.
Forever is a mighty long time.
And I love that album. Like double 2 discs. I actually really, really enjoyed the second half. So Justin Scott was the second half. So the second half I can play front to back. The first half was great, and I'm actually starting to like it a lot more as I listen to it. But I mean, the second half was like melody and was flow. It was Crit just spitting. Like my favorite song was actually the closing of Justin Scott was Bury Me in Gold. Just because it talked about the idea of fame and how when you die, like you can't take it with you, and how much he'll give everything to have, all the fame and all the money in the world to see his grandma again. And those ideas and things of family are really key to me. So, I mean, that whole album is like, I love it, man. I'm a big Crit fan. Everything he does, I'm a champion it. But he didn't disappoint, and he didn't let me down on this one.
I would say I did enjoy that album. It didn't make my top 15, but I would say it would be definitely in my top 20.
Wow.
And I also think that a part of that is because, just like you said, I enjoyed the second half better than I did the first half as well. But I think, similar to you, I think that's the type of album that you have to kind of grow with, at least for me. The more I listen to it, the more I started to like it more and more. And so we'll see moving into next year, how I still feel about it. But to me, that's also another sign of how good an album or how great an album can be is how it lives with you. And that's why I put Joey Badass so high, because it came out so early in the year. And for me to still have that feelings that I did, it just means that, like I said, it held on with me. And we'll see if that happens with Big Crit. My number 2 is going to be a surprise for a lot of people. Kendrick Lamar, Damn. Kung Fu Kenny didn't disappoint. Kenny. Yeah, he didn't disappoint with this album, even though to me this is the closest thing that we've gotten from Kendrick that's mainstream or pop-ish, if we were going to ever claim any of his albums to be that way. It's the closest in that lane to me, which made it accessible, but I don't feel like he compromised himself with this album. So that's another important factor for me. My favorite track is Feel. Just the pulsing of the drums to the groove to K-Dot questioning everything and everyone, which is something that like we all go through. And every time I hear it, it feels like my inner voice is speaking through him. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that connection, like certain things that he's saying on there is, certain things that we all say to ourselves, like, damn, nobody's praying for me. Like, just like, it just really resonated. It just has a gravity to it that just pulls you in. And once you're in there, you're there until the track's done. Fear is another standout track to me. And then Duckworth. Again, as I stated before, I'm big on storytelling, and you can't really get no better story than Duckworth. Yeah. So the fact that they used 3 different samples for the progression of the production of Ninth Wonder, the details and the intricacy of the story, the M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end, it had everything in it. It had everything in it to be a closing track. And so that's why I made number 2. And Kendrick, similar to Rhapsody, has been on the list 3 years in a row. And I do want to mention something real quick, is that J. Cole would have made this list, but the fact is, unfortunately, his album came out in 2016.
Jacob would have probably made the list. I don't know where he would have been. I wasn't the biggest fan of the last project, but that's probably another conversation. Well, it was all right. It was cool. Kendrick was my number 2 as well. So for all the reasons that you just mentioned, like big Kendrick fan, there's nothing wrong with it. I think at all. I mean, everything was perfect. I think from start to finish, it was a different feel, and every album he gives me something different. So, I mean, you have, this was completely different from Tip of a Butterfly, which was completely different from Good Kid, Mad City, and the feeling of it was different. The energy was different. Yeah. Every year, I'm surprised every single time. It's like, yo, where was this? What is this? Where's this coming from? My favorite track was Feel, just because it was that deep, introspective, something you can just sit with and just think on. Something that we all think about. Is about like, who's praying for me, who loves me. Those things are pretty powerful. So, have no complaints, nothing wrong with the album. I loved it. I could probably continue playing it. So, Kendrick's one of those artists where I'm not even going to say I'm looking forward to his next project. Whenever he feels like dropping an album, I'm kind of ready to receive it.
Yeah. So this leads us to the number 1 album of 2017. I believe we have the same album as our number 1, but
it seems like it.
I had to go with Freddie Gibbs, man. You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I play this album out, man. It is, to me, it's so good. It's just really so good. It has a high replayability, amazingly soulful production, cohesive theme, introspective storytelling. It got funny parts when you got Black Jesus. I mean, you got Black Jesus. How can you not like it?
Yeah.
The other things that, like, each time I play this album, like, I have to play the whole album just due to how good it is. Yeah. I have to play the whole album, and I play it from beginning to end. And then when I get to the end, I'm like, damn, I wish it was longer, but I wish it was longer. More. Yeah, I wish it was more in a good way. I don't feel like I was cheated. It's just like, man, give me some more. Like, so I'm very excited and anticipating his next album and see where he goes from that, because I think the thing that also added to this album was a culmination of a lot of things going wrong for him and going right for him in a small time period. As well as, like, he just puts out his downfalls, trying to inspire others to follow in their own path, not to follow in his path, but to pointing out, like I said, his downfalls, but saying, like they got that part with Black Jesus saying, don't sell rocks. You a chef, make some creme brulee, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to do what everybody anticipates you or wants you to be. Like, find your lane and do you. And that's fine. I just like that motivation aspect of it, but as well as the real components of it. That's really what resonated with me. And Freddie Gibbs is a lyricist. Go ahead.
It's the same, man. I mean, that's it right there. This is I've had a lot of long conversations with his friends and homeboys about the Black Jesus skit about, stay in your lane, do what you do, don't try to do everybody's stuff. I mean, there's been like months at a time where I just listen to nothing but Freddie Gibbs, like as I'm working or just thinking, and it's motivational, it's like inspirational, it's like talking about his own faults, sharing some successes. Everything about the album is perfect. And I left the same. Every time I'm like, damn, I wish it was more, because it was short. It wasn't that many tracks. So it was like, every single time I played, it's like, all right, I want more. I've gone back and listened to like every single Freddie Gibbs song. Like I was on a Freddie Gibbs bench for a minute, just trying to get more from him, more of his story. I want to hear more. And so I'm actually like, I'm looking forward to some of his stuff. Like I want so much more music from him. Yeah. Oh yeah, this was my favorite album of the year.
Yeah, same. My favorite album of the year. Alexis and Crushed Glass were really standouts to me because of the lyricism, the cadence, and just like the breath control that he had.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about the breath control until I saw the Black Thought freestyle, that 10-minute freestyle. And, people kept on bringing that up. And then I started to re-listen to the top 10 albums again. And I started listening to that Freddie Gibbs. And I was like, yo, the breath control he had on that Alexis, like, it shows that high level of craft skill.
Yeah.
And I think he slept on. This album should be praised more than it has been. But he's getting the love here.
And Andre and Crushed Glass are my two favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, he just Like everything from the production to the lyrics, everything was just smooth. I loved it. Soulful, you know, I loved it. Even like the singer, he sings on his hooks.
Yeah,
all of it was great. So, hey, I remember one of his interviews. He was like, you don't know what a Gary nigga sound like. Even Gary, Indiana. This is kind of the first time us hearing from somebody from his neighborhood, sound like if anybody sound like who he sounds like, and nobody sounds like that.
Very true.
With that flow. So, and storytelling as well. Like,
yeah,
I can close my eyes and visually see everything.
Yeah,
when he's talking very vivid pictures.
Yeah, when he's talking about and I want to bring this up now that I just thought about it too. He has sections where he talks as well, but it just felt different than it felt with Logic. It just felt there's just a different feeling that I felt like I didn't feel like when he's telling the stories about how the book was in German so he couldn't read it and he like that really brought him down. That hit me. I was I felt that too. I was like, and you normally wouldn't think about like those little things mattering, but he highlighted in a way where I was like, damn, that could have broke him down. Like those moments, like again, it didn't take me out of the album. I was still in it, even though he was talking and not rapping. Again, this was a great album. Again, I can't wait to see what 2018 holds for Freddie Gibbs. And to be real with you, I can't wait to see what 2018 holds for just hip hop, because if this year was an indie indication of how 2018 was going to be, we're going to be in for some really good music.
Yeah, it's the same, man. I think, I'm looking forward to everyone producing some amazing things next year. There's a couple of other albums a couple of other artists that I wanted to release something this year, but didn't. One particularly, J. Cole. I'm waiting. I want another J. Cole project. Hopefully he comes out 2018. But there's a couple of artists I got on my watch list. Like I'm waiting for you to drop something.
There's a couple. J. Cole is one. Kanye, and to be real, I'm really interested in that Pusha T album that's going to be produced by Kanye. That really sparked my interest. So I guess we got to wait till 2018 to find out.
I was going to say one album that I thought about that I didn't hear you mention. I don't know if you're a big fan or not. What do you think of Big Sean's album, I Decided?
I actually enjoyed I Decided better than I did Dark Paradise. To me, which a lot of people say the opposite. The reason why I liked I Decided is just the maturity of his content. He was really bigging up Detroit and really not just bigging up it as a city, but really bigging up it from a more social aspect of like empowering Black people. I thought was something, it just felt deeper to me than what I normally get from him. So that's what I enjoyed. I wouldn't say it definitely would make my top 20, but I just thought it was just the content was just heavier, and that's more to my liking.
Okay.
What did you think about that?
I know a lot of people. I'm not a big Sean fan. I tried a lot to get into him. I can't. That's maybe one or two songs that I like from. I think it was like Dark Paradise. I think that's the album title. I forget the particular track about her grandmother that I still listen to and go back.
Yeah, I know.
But for the most part, yeah, I'm not a big fan. But I know a lot of people have even hit me up about like, yo, like, what do you think of the Big Sean album? I'm not a big fan of him like that.
Yeah, like I said, I just thought that he showed a lot of growth on that album, and it made me excited to see what he has coming up next for his album, to see if he stays on that path or if he goes back to like a Dark Paradise. And I'm not counting the Metro Boomin album that they did.
Oh, heck no. No.
So
I tried to get into that one. I couldn't get into it, but
a lot of people will be surprised that Eminem wasn't on the list. The album just released, but on first listen, to be real, I wasn't really feeling his flow necessarily, and just the type of production that he picked, it was too rockish for me. That's not really in my wheelhouse. I do like some rock music, but the sounds just really didn't work for me.
It's kind of the same. I listened to maybe a couple of songs. Sonic, I can't get with it.
Yeah,
I can't even really sit down and get with like the content of it, because production wise stopping me from doing that.
Yeah, the same thing. I gave it 3 solid listens, man. I gave it 3 solid listens, and it didn't get better. so
I think that was yeah.
So he didn't make the list. But I'll say first, I want to say thank you for doing this podcast with me and breaking down your top 10 list as well as your honorable mentions. Like I said, definitely go check out his article on TheSonicBreakdown.com. It's up now. And man, I'm just excited about 2018. Definitely keep rocking with us, keep listening. 2018, we're gonna have a lot of new things, a lot of different type of segments and shows, and definitely more articles and different variety of articles as well. So we have a lot of things in the works. So definitely check us out. And I want to really sincerely say I appreciate everybody that's listened, downloaded, subscribed, followed, just been really rocking with us. It means a lot to us, and I can't say enough of a thank you to everybody out there. And we're just gonna keep on going. I guess this is going to be actually the last podcast for 2017, and we'll see y'all in 2018. You know our motto: live, listen to some great music, and above all, love more. We out.